Everyone in your life has a strong opinion about this, and none of them agree. Your dad says renting is throwing money away. Your coworker with a finance degree says homeownership is a trap for people who don't understand how index funds work. You've heard both takes 100 times, and you still don't know who's right. So instead of another opinion, we're going to run it as a game with levels. Same starting stats, same starting cash, 2 different strategies. Watch who's actually winning at each level, because the leaderboard flips more than once, and the final score isn't what either of them expects.
Ryan and Tyler. Same age, 29. Same job title, different companies, same $58,000 salary. Same city, same $45,000 saved. This spring, standing in the same rental market, they picked opposite strategies. Neither one has run the math past move-in day. We have. Here's the scoreboard, level by level. Ryan buys a $280,000 townhouse, puts $45,000 down, just under 16%, and takes a 30-year fixed at 6.75%. Principal and interest lands at $1,527 a month. Add taxes around $230 and insurance near $110, and Ryan's all-in is about $1,867 a month before a single repair. He also eats $8,400 in closing costs on day one. Appraisal fees, title insurance, loan origination, gone before he's even unpacked a box.
Tyler signs a lease on a comparable unit for $1,350 a month. No down payment, no closing costs, no inspection report, full of things to worry about. He takes his $45,000 and drops it straight into a total market index fund, historically averaging around 8% a year. His housing cost is over $500 less than Ryan's every single month. He walks out of the leasing office feeling like the obviously smarter one, and honestly, at this level, he's not wrong. Level 1 winner, Tyler, and it's not close. 6 weeks into homeownership, Ryan's water heater dies. $1,400 gone on a Tuesday he didn't see coming. Then the gutters need replacing, $600 more. He starts keeping a running note on his phone of house stuff, and it's longer than he expected this early.
By the end of year 1, almost $14,000 of his $18,300 in mortgage payments has gone straight to interest. Only about $2,900 actually chips into what he owes. That interest disappears the exact same way rent does, except nobody calls it that and nobody puts it on a chart for him. Ryan also gets his first property tax reassessment notice near the end of year 1, a letter he didn't know to expect, bumping his monthly tax escrow up by $40. Small on its own, but it's his first real lesson that owning a home means the bills don't stop showing up just because you already paid the big ones. Tyler's dishwasher breaks in his unit. He just texts the landlord, gets a reply in 20 minutes, and goes back to watching TV. His only costs all year are rent, a cheap renter's policy, around $15 a month, and utilities. No surprise bills, no 5-figure scares, no house stuff note on his phone. Level 2 winner? Still Tyler. He's starting to feel pretty confident about this whole thing. Level 3, year 3, first checkpoint. Tyler has spent about $48,600 on rent total, and his $45,000, completely untouched, has quietly compounded to roughly $56,700. He hasn't added a single extra dollar to it. It just grew in the background while he lived his life. Ryan has spent north of $67,000 across mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, closing costs, and repairs, and has built maybe $7,800 in actual equity. $7,800 after 3 years and $67,000 out the door. If you asked either of them right now who made the smarter call, there's no contest. Tyler would win that argument at every dinner party. Level 3 winner? Tyler, by a mile. If the game ended here, Ryan would look like he made a genuinely bad decision. And most people who quit watching a rent versus buy video after the first few minutes walk away thinking exactly that.
Level 4. The rules quietly change. This is the level most people never notice because nothing dramatic happens on the surface. Tyler's lease renews. Rent climbs 4%, then 4% again the next year. $1,350 becomes $1,404, then $1,460. Small jumps. Nothing that makes him call his landlord and complain. Nothing that shows up as a single bad month. Ryan's mortgage payment is $1,527 in month 1. It's $1,527 in month 60. Same number 10 years out. Same number at year 25. Same number at month 360. A mortgage is a fixed cost that inflation slowly makes cheaper in real terms year after year, without Ryan doing anything at all. Rent is a variable cost that only moves one direction, and it never resets back down. At the same time, Ryan's house has been quietly appreciating in the background. Home values have historically climbed around 3 to 4% a year nationally. At 3.5%, Ryan's $280,000 townhouse is worth roughly $322,000 by year 5, while his loan balance has dropped to about $251,000. That's $71,000 in equity, and Ryan only put $45,000 in to begin with. The other $26,000 came from appreciation on the full $280,000 asset, not just his down payment. That's leverage. It's the single biggest advantage homeowners have over renters, and it almost never gets mentioned in the monthly payment debate because it doesn't show up on a lease or a listing page. Tyler's $45,000 has grown to about $66,000 by year 5, a solid $21,000 gain on its own, but he only earns returns on the money he actually put in. No multiplier effect, no leverage, just straight compounding on his original stake. And his rent is now closing in on what Ryan's total monthly cost is, except Ryan's payment is buying him equity, and Tyler's is buying him one more month in someone else's building.
Level 4 winner. The scoreboard is tightening, and for the first time since level 1, it's not obvious who's ahead. Level 5, year 10. The reversal is confirmed. Tyler has paid roughly $164,000 in cumulative rent over the decade and holds an investment account worth about $97,000. Ryan has spent close to $243,000 across every housing cost combined: mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, closing costs. But his home is now worth approximately $395,000, with a remaining mortgage balance near $224,000. That's $171,000 in equity sitting quietly in a house he lives in every day. Net it out. Tyler, $164,000 spent for $97,000 in assets. Ryan, $243,000 spent for $171,000 in equity. Ryan is ahead by roughly $70,000, 10 years after Tyler was winning by a landslide. Level 5 winner, Ryan, officially for the first time in the entire game. And the gap only widens from here because his loan balance keeps shrinking every single month. His house keeps appreciating in the background whether he thinks about it or not, and Tyler's rent has no ceiling and never will. Level 6, the boss round, when Tyler's strategy actually wins. Before we go further, let's be fair to the game, because there are levels where Tyler's approach is genuinely the correct strategy, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. If you're not staying somewhere at least 5 to 7 years, buying almost always loses. Closing costs on the way in, agent fees around 5-6% on the way out, and minimal equity built in the early levels means renting comes out ahead for anyone who moves often. In extremely high-cost markets, San Francisco, Manhattan, parts of coastal California, the price-to-rent ratio is so lopsided that buying doesn't make financial sense at all,
no matter how long you stay. And if you're the rare player who actually invests every single dollar saved by renting consistently without ever touching it for a decade, the gap can close significantly. Sometimes enough to make renting the better play outright.
Most people don't play that level correctly, though. The savings quietly get absorbed into a nicer car, more takeout, small upgrades that don't feel like anything at the time, but add up to real money by year 10. Tyler's strategy only wins if it's executed with a discipline most people don't actually maintain for 10 straight years. There's also a version of this level people forget to account for: liquidity. Ryan's equity is real, but it's locked inside walls. He can't spend it on a car repair or a bad month at work without either selling the house outright or taking on more debt against it, a home equity loan with its own interest rate and its own risk. Tyler's $45,000 and everything it's grown into is one phone call away from being cash in his account.
If either of them lost their job tomorrow, Tyler's position is the one that bends without breaking. That flexibility has a value too, even if it doesn't show up as a dollar figure on the scoreboard. Level 7, year 20, the gap widens. By year 20, Ryan's mortgage balance has dropped to around $134,000, while his home, still appreciating at that same modest 3.5%, is worth close to $557,000. That's over $420,000 in equity. His monthly payment is still $1,520, the exact same number it was on day one, except now it's a smaller and smaller share of his income every year as his salary has grown around it. Tyler's rent, compounding at 4% a year, has climbed to roughly $2,960 a month. His investment account, still untouched, has grown to approximately $220,000. Real money. A genuinely good outcome for someone who just left it alone for 2 decades. But it's no longer close. Ryan's net position from housing alone has pulled more than $200,000 ahead. Somewhere in this stretch, Tyler also learns the other cost of renting long-term, the one that never shows up on a spreadsheet. His building gets sold to a new management company in year 14. They don't renew his lease at the old rate. They renew it at market, which jumps him $310 in a single year instead of the usual 4%. He has no say in it. He didn't do anything wrong. He just doesn't own the decision. Ryan, 20 years in, has painted the kitchen twice, put in a fence, and never once had to ask anyone's permission to do it.
That control is worth something too, separate from the dollar figures, and it's part of why the equity gap doesn't tell the whole story. Level 8, year 30, final boss. Picture it. Ryan sits at the kitchen table and signs one last piece of paper, handing over a check that no longer needs to exist after this one. The house around him, the one he fixed the water heater in during year 1, argued about the paint color of at some point in year 12, watched climb to nearly $700,000, is just his now, completely and permanently. His housing cost drops to taxes, insurance, and upkeep, maybe $650 a month for the rest of his life. Game over for him. He's cleared the level. Neither of them checked the scoreboard past level 1 to see how the game actually ends. Ryan came out ahead, not because buying always wins this game, but because he locked in a fixed cost, while every other cost around him kept rising year after year. And because leverage let his original $45,000 earn returns on a $280,000 asset the entire time he lived there. The real trap was never renting, and it was never buying either. The real trap is quitting the game after level 1 and assuming you already know the final score. Next time your renewal notice shows up with just a 4% bump, remember, that's the level most people never see coming until it's already stacked